Hey everyone, and welcome back to week 9 of our 52-week Excel Masterclass series. Today, we are diving into 3 super useful Excel functions, the count, COUNTIF, and the COUNTIFS function. By using a real-world example that we have been using actually for most of the weeks, that's the auto sales report. So whether you're analyzing sales data or cleaning up reports, these functions are a game changer. And before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming Excel tips. Okay, so let's start with the very simple one. So the first, what is a count function? So the count function is used to count the numbers of numeric values in a range or number of cells in your selected criteria or field. So straight away, here's our spreadsheet, and suppose we want to count how many sales we had done. So in that case, what we can do here is I have 3 different scenarios, all the formulas count, COUNTIF, and the COUNTIFs covered for us. So if you want to start with the first one, so count, it's going to be a straightforward count function. You just have to count the numbers, or you can count the number of rows, number of columns, things like that. Or in this case, we have our auto sales record data here. So in this data, let's say you are managing a kind of spreadsheet at your workplace or in your college or school. So what you can do is you want to find out for this month, for this specific spreadsheet or a specific month, how many sales you did. So for that, you can straightforward select the cell where you want to put that formula, hit equals, and then you can start typing count. And then when you see that count function, hit enter. So as soon as you select a formula, now formula or function, now you see there is this highlighted item, it says value 1. So you can either count different values by selecting one and then selecting multiple. You can either do by doing this, or what you can do is you can select a whole range. Just drag and select a whole range. So in this case, what we can do, we'll select the whole range here, close that bracket and hit enter. So now you'll see you have 12 count here, 12 sales that were made. So this is pretty basic, pretty easy to use simple count function, but that's not all we do around the count function. So the next function we have is the COUNTIF function. So what is COUNTIF and what does it do? So the COUNTIF function, what you want to do is, let's say you have a spreadsheet, same like what we have on our screen, and you want to understand or you want to find a specific condition, like you want to find a count based on a specific condition. And the condition that I have here is from this sale record, we want to find out of all these sales, how many sales were done by Sarah. So Sarah is our sales rep here. So we want to find out how many sales were done by Sarah. So in that case, again, to do any formula or function, you can start by count. So you'll see the COUNTIF function is there. As soon as you select that, now for this one, you have to give a range. So in this case, what I'm doing here is the range is going to be all the sales records. So I have all the sales records selected. Once I have the range selected, hit comma, and then you have to give the criteria. So now I'm going to show you 2 different ways of providing a criteria. One is more of a static and the other one is more dynamic, and it's always better to use the second one. So for the first one, you're simply going to type Sarah for the criteria and hit enter. So now you can see Sarah has made 4 sales out of all the sales here. And if we do a quick manual count, this is a small spreadsheet, so it's easy to do some manual counts. But yeah, if you're working with hundreds of thousands of records, it's not always easier to go manually. Okay, so now we can confirm 4 sales made by Sarah, but one thing that you can do differently that's going to make your life really easy. So what you can do here is, right now the condition that we have here, the criteria, that was provided directly into the parentheses here. So instead of doing that, what you can do here instead is have a cell where you put in your values. So right now I'm going to type Sarah into this cell here. So what I want to do actually here is I want to find out how many sales Sarah did. So that's what I have here. But now let's say instead of typing now in this formula itself, instead of typing the value like this, let's use cell referencing. So I'm going to remove the custom value here, and what I'm going to select is I'm going to select this cell reference here. So select this cell, and that's going to be our criteria. Close that bracket and hit enter. Now I have 4 again. That's the same answer, but now I don't really have to change the formula again and again if I want to check the same for another sales rep. Let's say I want to check for Mike. So instead of changing this criteria, I will just change the cell reference that I have here. So when I change the name and I hit Mike, oh, looks like Mike also has 4 sales, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, let's try another one. So instead of Mike, let's try Lisa. So there's Lisa. When I type Lisa, hit enter, Lisa has done 2 sales in our spreadsheet. So that's how you can do dynamic cell referencing when you're working with formulas. So that is actually really helpful. Instead of typing different names or typing different criterias, having that human error chances somewhere, it's always better to play around with cell references, and then you can keep updating this information. So that's really a good way you can do. So now let's move to the third formula that we have here, the COUNTIFs formula. Same thing, the COUNTIF function or the COUNTIF formula, it works with one condition. So now, as many of you have already guessed, the COUNTIFs function is actually going to handle more than one condition. When you're trying to find something, it's going to look through multiple conditions that you have and then give you the count out of that. So we can start by COUNTIFs, and as soon as you have that function selected, now always focus on what you see in the suggested areas here. So now the highlighted or the bold text, you see criteria range 1. So the first range that I have here, what we want to find, how many sales were done by Sarah. So that's the first criteria. So again, select the whole range from here, enter comma, and then criteria 1. Criteria 1 is Sarah. Again, we are going to do this manually for now, but same thing, always try to do it with cells, with different cells, so you can change the sales rep or you can change different conditions easily instead of touching that formula. Okay, so we have criteria 1, hit comma. Now if you have a criteria 2, so in this case we have second criteria, that is total sold by Sarah on cash payment. So there is one column that we have payment type. So for this one, we are going to select the range 2. Once you have that range selected, hit comma, and then you have to give the second criteria here. So for the second criteria, I want to see all the cash payments. So the data says cash. As soon as I have that, close that bracket and hit enter. So out of 4 sales, one sale for Sarah was on cash payment. And again, if you wanted to quickly check, so first Sarah, that was the lease, there's another Sarah here, so that's a cash payment, and there are 2 Sarahs, one is lease and one is financing. So that's how you can easily play around. Again, if you wanted to make this a dynamic, let's say I want to check for Mike and the payment type should be cash. So here again in the formula, go ahead, remove the static or remove the manual criteria that we put in here, select one cell which has the value that you're trying to find, and for the payment method, remove that manual and select this cell, hit enter. Now for Mike, out of 4 sales for Mike, he did 3 on cash. And let's say I want to find Lisa. So Lisa had 2 sales. Again, how many of Lisa's sales were on cash? 0. So both of her sales, they were not on cash payment. So this is how you can easily play around with all these formulas and using the dynamic cell referencing, this is really a lifesaver, and it saves lots and lots of times, and then it gives you great abilities that you can do a lot of data analysis. You can do a lot of data cleaning, or you can find results really quick when you have that huge spreadsheet. All right, so there you have it, the COUNTIF and the COUNTIFS function. Three essential functions that actually make your life and your data analysis faster and smarter. So if you learned something new today, give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment with any Excel topics you'd like us to cover next week. So next week, in week 10, we are diving into some of the lookup functions again. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep mastering Excel one week at a time.